my name is Sophia. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Civo, and really excited to be joined today by Dinesh, Matt, and Mario. So before we get started, I'm going to have them do quick intros, share a little bit about themselves and the company that they work for. So we're going to go ahead and start with Dinesh.
Morning, everyone. Dinesh, CTO at Civo. Hopefully you've heard enough about us now. But a little bit of my background is I've built data centers in the past as well from the ground up, and kind of involved in some of the sustainability aspects of the power generation that we use at Civo.
Amazing. This works good. Good morning. Firstly, thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a real privilege to be here. You can probably sense from my accent that I'm from the UK, but it's great to be here. We're Deep Green. We build data centers. We can get onto specifically what's different and really different about ours. We're a partner to Civo. My job is Chief Marketing Officer, so I've learnt an incredible amount in the last 24 hours, some of which I understand. And the other job that I have is Chief Sustainability Officer. So an awful lot of information about what we're doing rolls up to me, and I guess I'm accountable for that with the CEO.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mario. I work for Kubernetes, and I'm also an ARM ambassador, so for the ARM technology and the chips that they produce. And we basically are a multi-cluster, multi-environment Kubernetes management software company. But obviously, people need to run Kubernetes clusters somewhere, so they also approach us really on an early stage when it comes to data center planning and also like weight planning on how do we use what we have in our data center efficiently. And yeah, sustainability is a thing that everyone needs to take in account.
Awesome, thank you. Kind of going off of that, so we had a quick chat before this panel, and we talked a lot about really, I would say, data centers and sustainability within data centers. Mario, you made a really good point that it's not just stopping at data centers. We need to take a little bit further. So what are some of the most significant environmental impacts caused by the tech industry today, and how are your companies working to reduce these?
I mean, when we try to make everything as efficient as possible, and that's the idea behind sustainability, right? But then people just deploy stuff on clusters or just create clusters and let them run, and it's like no user, then it's not being used, and people are not focusing on like, hey, how much do we use in there, or yeah, if we just don't use it, that's also fine because it doesn't cost us money because it runs in our own data center. Fun fact, it costs you money because you don't have the resources that you can use for other things. And also, like, especially in Europe, we are relying heavily on regulations. There are regulations for building a data center. There are regulations for how you should spend your energy. I think the European Union also created a paper for you need to be energy efficient by the year, I don't know.
It's advisory. It was written in 22. It's advisory at the moment. It has an estimated target time.
Yeah, but I mean, the goal is that we eventually should reach those things, right? So, and I think every one of us, beginning from the developer up to the CTO, up to the CEO, should have a focus on sustainability because we only have this one planet, and we will run out of resources eventually.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting about efficiently using resources, because we've come from a world with virtual machines where that was giving a step up in usage, and then containerization and Kubernetes is the next step, but as always, there's always more work to do.
Matt, I know Deep Green's doing quite a bit in this area. Do you want to touch on some of the things that Deep Green is doing?
So I was reading a blog post this morning, and it said 2 of the most important words in business are actually and really. And I thought I'd just offer that to all of you. Like, what are we actually doing that's really making a difference, rather than saying what we might be doing that could make a difference? We tend to look for the most efficient way to cool our technology. The thing we actually do is that we don't draw a second power source to cool the technology. In many instances, the servers are immersed. we think about the carbon impact very much. Sustainability is far broader than simply the carbon, but we are a decentralized data center organization, so we make small data centers. We build them into the fabric of existing buildings as opposed to build new buildings. We are not at the far edge. We're kind of near edge. We could have a whole edge debate. I don't think it's particularly worthwhile. But we are a distributed set of data centers. Obsessed with, I really enjoyed Mark's talk this morning, and I think it is true for the people who work at Civo that you understand your purpose, that you want to make it easier for other people to do the things that they want to do, and you want to get out of their way as much as that is possible, and to continue to democratize cloud services. Deep Green happens to build data centers, but our job is to create an exemplar of how a new business model works. So the thing that we actually do is we give away the heat for free. So you mentioned the fact that in Germany particularly, there is sort of increasingly a movement towards regulatory control over heat reuse, i.e. it would be mandated. That's not true of the rest of Europe, but it may become increasingly true. We recapture that heat, but the interesting thing is we give it away for nothing. That changes economics for the data center. But what I've learned in the last 24 hours is that we also have to think about what's happening in the rest of the stack. We are a real estate company, fundamentally, but we also have to care very much about the environment upon which you're all creating things.
Yeah, I really like the usage of heat approach, because basically that is what is being done since a couple of years in Germany when it comes to biological gas production. So they have heat as a spillage, so that they need to get rid of it. And if they don't have a way to get rid of it, they need to pay additional taxes on this. So they also give it away for free. And I mean, data centers are basically like the same thing. So I hope that the German government goes into the direction that if you don't give away your heat for free, or at least sell it for a cheap price to locals, because that's the easiest way, right? You have people living in the area of a data center, then they can also heat their houses or the companies with those heat that is being produced, so that it doesn't go to waste.
Exactly. I mean, we don't talk about heat as waste. So I'm in branding and marketing, so I care about words rather than ones and zeros and switches and things like that, but I'm learning really fast. We don't ever call it waste. It's energy. The question is, how much of it are we going to use, and are we using it responsibly? And that's from code all the way through to infrastructure, as I understand it.
I think some of the really interesting use cases that open up with decentralized data centers that are giving away heat for free is when you give that information out to developers and people operating software. Because as we move to the ability to move workload around data centers, if you could say, hey, someone's turned the hot water tap on over here, we could do with a bit more heat in this data center. If you're able to say that and someone goes, yes, no, I can run some really heavy workload for the next 10 minutes and give someone a bath.
Yeah, then we come also on the point where it's going into the direction of timing, right? So when we had the chat before, it was also like the usage of resources and timing of resources. So, for example, usually people are home in the evening, so people shower in the morning. So you know when you have a higher energy consumption in the different areas. So which brings you to the point where you can say, hey, I have my high workload that is for calculation and stuff like this is running in the evening, because I know that then my data center, my small data center, can deal with more, or can sell or give away more heat that is being used in the end. So that then optimization of resources comes to another level, right?
It very much depends on the off-taker. So we call a swimming pool an off-taker. It is probably the most simple because of thermodynamics. There's a cold water mass. of volume and our data center, and it's pretty easy to sort of heat one with the other. There are lots of other off-takers, and you're absolutely right. You could start to prioritize or plan workloads based on when there's peak demand, but there are other off-takers as well, and they get pretty exciting, sort of alternative plants sources, alternative food sources, direct air capture, some pretty nascent technologies, which would be less dependent on sort of human behavior, but both are true.
Awesome. Well, I guess beyond kind of individual company efforts, what are some industry-wide initiatives that could help accelerate some of the sustainable practices? I'm going to throw it out to whoever would like to take that one.
I don't know, Mario, you're on the ARM ambassadors. It feels like you're ideal to start talking about what...
I mean, yeah, what you see in the last year, I would say, is that more and more big companies, so Google, AWS announced it last year, Google announced it this year at Google Next, is the usage of, we move towards our own ARM architecture-based chip, and we are replacing a lot of stuff in our data centers with ARM because ARM is more energy efficient. There was like the efficiency of x68 compared to ARM was still like, yeah, it's not on a level, but we see more and more movement towards ARM, and it's not only MacBooks. But in general, I would say that you see also the adoption of ARM technology, because in the past we had the problem that specific software couldn't run on ARM architecture because you needed to build in a specific way, you needed you need additional container images. But nowadays we can automate this. So you can publish an ARM container and you can publish an x68 container in the very same pipeline and run it on both architectures, and this makes things way easier and more, so you can run everywhere. And the good thing with ARM is, and this is especially for those small distributed data centers, it's less energy consumption. They are small. I mean, you can run ARM. I have a data center in a suitcase talk I did, which is basically 4 ARM-based processors, including a GPU, where you can run a machine learning model on a board that is this big and runs with a small lithium battery, and you have a SIM card in it, and you can basically take your data center on your backpack.
Which is, I mean, Mark mentioned, he's not here now, but Mark mentioned investments in heater. That's heat with an R, obviously, because you take all the vowels out. But have a look at that if you've not heard of it. They are micro data centers, probably backpack size, that are heating individual home hot water systems. For us, I think we're looking at things like, again, it's a broader theme around social license to operate. I think that there is increasingly public awareness of the fact that the data center industry is inherently consumptive of energy and other resources. And just because we can doesn't mean we should in all development. And I think that increasingly, consumers of services will be asking people to be far more transparent about what they are doing in and around broadly sort of every aspect, environmentalism, the social benefit, and the governance. So I think that we hope to be an exemplar of what it is to have a social license to operate. And this isn't just simply data centers drinking large amounts of water, although that has been very publicly put in the press. I think that there is just greater transparency, and so it's around social license to operate. And yes, that does come down to development environments and the use of the hardware. We can't just simply create a chip farm and think that our job is done.
Yeah, and I mean, we are still relying on, as you mentioned, it's not only energy, it's also like resources like chips. If we go into, if we have batteries, because if you have a solar power, the sun doesn't always shine. So you need batteries, and we know how lithium batteries are not the environmental friendliest thing to store your energy in. So you also need to keep this in mind when you look at sustainability, because a battery might also be not friendly for the environment in the current state. I mean, we are luckily moving towards technology that enables us, like there's the and I'm missing the English term, the coal-based, carbon-based batteries, but they are still not production ready. They cost a lot of energy to produce and stuff like this. But they are like, we need to come up, how do we store also energy? And this also is a factor for your data center, because you also need to take into account what is with an outage. What if I can't rely on the power grid? And what if I can't rely on the public production? Because if I buy power in Germany, it's not so much green.
We'll definitely touch on that a little bit more later too. So Dinesh, I'm going to kind of spin the question a little bit for you too. So we've touched on kind of industry-wide, company-wide. What about from an individual perspective? I know before you've mentioned sustainable coding. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there was a study now a couple of years ago about how energy efficient every coding language is by default. So as well as you starting to make choices about, do I like C, do I like Go, ooh, Rust is quite shiny, let's try moving everything over to that. There is a responsibility you could look into of which is the most energy efficient way or code base to use, which I found really interesting. It's not something I'd thought about before that. It was always about use the best code to get the job done the fastest, right? That's all I thought about. Sometimes security came into it, maybe. But now going into actually, it might be a little harder to write it in Rust, but I get some huge sustainability impact with that as well. So there is a lot we can do as developers as we start thinking about sustainability shifting left.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, some of you will have seen this probably. There's sort of a lot of people who have a lot of fun trying to make the smallest websites in the world. 1K or 2K websites. So very binary, but very creative. So let's not see this as just inhibiting our creativity, whether it's painting pictures like I do, or writing words, or actually coding. Let's see it as an opportunity to be highly imaginative. So I think sometimes we're, in the world of governance and restriction, we feel like we're being encumbered and inhibited, but let's see it actually as an opportunity to be incredibly imaginative.
There was something I saw in university, you've just reminded me, had small floppy disks, 1.5 meg of data on them, and it was a challenge to see how much you could put onto that 1.5 meg. And someone got an entire run-through of Doom, all of the video compressed down onto a floppy disk, then put the entirety of the encyclopedia on 100 times over. And you're like, how have you compressed all of this down? So it is possible to do it. I just don't think it's a focus for anyone at the moment. It's about shipping things fast.
Hopefully that's a challenge to the audience too. So, no, Dinesh, you kind of mentioned like innovation a little bit, but let's touch on that a little bit more with innovation and some of the emerging trends. So as AI development and the use of GPUs continues to expand, especially in data-intensive applications, how can we ensure that this growth doesn't come at the expense of sustainability?
That's a great question, and I don't know. I think we're really at the start of AI and language models and generative everything at the moment, that I think there is a lot of challenge at the moment of just how do I even run this? And there is no consideration of what hardware this actually uses to run on at the end of the day. So I think it's going to need focus, but we need to understand firstly how to even do something or what we want to do with these systems.
Yeah, I don't want also not to be the boomer there, but not everything needs AI, and not everything is an AI use case. So people should actually think about, does it give me a benefit? Is it really worth the effort if my small company or my company that might be large, but it's not the focus market? For example, I'm a manufacturing company for chemicals. Do I really need to develop something that I say that is beneficial for me, or can I reuse something that is generated by a company that is so that it can be used in multiple places? Because usually, and this is a problem, especially in Germany or in some parts of Europe, is we build our own stuff because it's our stuff, and we can't trust anyone else. So we need to build. So we build everything by ourselves, although we have like all of the solutions are already out there. So I think that people should also like think twice, and maybe buy is better than build sometimes. because then the resources already have been spent. And I mean, there are technologies like RAG, for example, when we go into the LLM thing, where you can say, okay, I can enhance it with my own data, or I think we will get to the point where we have multiple specific LLMs for specific tasks, or the general L something M, that are specific for a certain task that is really small and energy efficient. I mean, Google showed this by releasing Gemma 2B, which is tiny. And I think this is the way to go forward. Like, have something that is specific for a task, and maybe just add another model on top that says like which model to choose.
Sorry, I was just going to say about small models, it's also about changing the architecture that we're deploying to. So I know AMD are doing a lot of work at the moment, and Intel are doing a lot of work about doing co-processors that sit next to the CPU that are designed for inferencing. And as soon as you start being able to offload that work from a pretty power-hungry GPU, which is at the moment either full power or no power, there's no intermediary power states with these GPUs, if we can offload that, and smaller models will allow us to do that.
I have nothing to add. I just love this conversation. Specifically, I think both of my colleagues here have said it's about the why. Starting there and saying, okay, why are we building this? I also agree with the sort of small agents doing important work. I'm on the sort of front end of this, where I'm talking to businesses about their use cases, and there's a sentiment that's coming up around AI recession, because some of the people in, say, the business side of the business can't necessarily think of the use cases. I think what's really interesting, and what I've learned in the last 24 hours, is that you, as a community, are actually quite capable of thinking about how to use AI in a way that maybe the CCOs and the chief revenue officers are not thinking about it, which is why I think it's incredibly important that sustainability starts in the application environment as much as it does from, say, the commercial environment. Not that they're not mutually exclusive, but you understand my point.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt, I'm going to start with you on this one. What emerging technologies or trends do you believe hold the greatest potential for revolutionizing the environmental impact overall?
I saw that question this morning in the spreadsheet. Okay. I think accountability is really important. When anyone asks where should they start, and there are still some people who are starting this, it's like, okay, what do you already measure? Because that's not necessarily as regulated as it might become, it's like, okay, what do you already know? And I think some people would be very surprised at what they are already consuming. So I think the trend is definitely towards thinking about ESG in the broadest terms and measuring things. That's been true for the last 5 years. It's still true. The second thing is that I think that we shouldn't see ourselves in isolation. We're not the back end or back office. We are part of an ecosystem. And there is an interdependency between our technologies, whether it's at sort of the top of the stack or where I am at the bottom of it, and infrastructure more broadly, and beyond infrastructure, culture. And so, for example, if a data center is sat next to a district heating system, then it is quite possible to heat people's homes. Imagine removing the economic cost of heating homes and what that would do to an incredible amount of people who find cost of living to be a challenge. That's only one sort of situation. You start to put technologies together and create interdependency in a distributed way. I mean, we really do have an opportunity to kind of rethink the way that communities are built. So I don't think we should see ourselves in isolation. This is not simply a software and hardware question. It's a societal question.
I think that's really important. I know that's something that we touched on when we first chatted as well. Mario, do you have anything?
I completely agree with Matt. I think that the only thing to add is that in general, it's building an efficient usage on tops, like thinking I have application ABC that is running on daytime because the cluster, I have a development cluster. I have 500 developers, and all of them have one small cluster, and they are only using it from 9 to 5. in most of the time. So what is going on with my resources in nighttime? And usually in nighttime, it's like, yeah, the good thing is when you use a cloud or a cloud provider, it's like, yeah, at nighttime I can just stop the VMs and I don't pay for them. So I also have the financial benefit. But if I have my own data center, it doesn't matter, right? So the only thing is we need to come up with ways that we also can basically shut down parts of our data center if we are really like a 9-to-5 company, or if we build our logic and build an architecture that uses those things at nighttime, maybe for the higher energy consumption jobs, we're on the same hardware, but then maybe on the daytime, yeah, it just takes a while to process something, but it doesn't matter if the data is being generated today or tomorrow, just that it is generated. So think of a complete, so the complete architecture needs to be in review. So this also means that, again, people need to talk to each other, because we face these issues not only like on a community level, you face this issue already in a company, because departments are not talking to each other.
And companies are not. I'll give you for example. We work with special effects companies in Soho in London, so there's a lot of creative industries there, film production companies. They have two types of work package. One is real time, and so you need to have lightning speed. So typically the sort of the hardware is under their desks, where the heat is not being recaptured. That's not always needing to be the case. With dark fiber, we can give them that sort of like hyper connectivity. But overnight, they send massive work packages, I mean, enormous work packages to render. Why is it that they have to have their own data center to do that, for example? Is it not that they could collaborate with other industries, to your point, who don't need that capacity overnight? Theirs is not time dependent. It's security dependent, without doubt, but it's not time dependent. So is there some sort of community of interest that could be built into the way that we think, rather than single instances, client to client?
Absolutely. From the cloud perspective, Dinesh?
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you've obviously said about shutting down your virtual machines, but from a cloud point of view, that hardware still exists, right? So it's the same challenges you have in your data center. So it's finding either the ability to shut hardware down and then preemptively bring it back up, or working with Matt's example customers to find use cases of, hey, it'd be really great if we schedule your batch job when we have capacity later and we can reuse all of that heat, because one of the challenges we have as a cloud provider is headroom and growth room, right? So we have to have a certain amount of hardware sitting there idle, just waiting for at some point someone might come along and go, I really want to run this. And with the SLAs and everything that we have to go, right, we have enough capacity to give everyone Kubernetes clusters within 90 seconds. And if you're the one person that it takes 4 minutes for, or 5 minutes for, like, what is the real impact there that you have? Are you willing as a consumer to accept that? Or are you going to be holding everyone accountable to that SLA of, you said 90 seconds and it was 92 seconds? And not understanding what is going on behind the scenes, and why, allowing large-scale utility compute providers to make good decisions on that consumption. And it's a conversation we need to have as a sort of industry of what we expect.
Yeah, and I mean, this is probably something that can be solved by marketing, right? Marketing and pricing, because if you say like, yeah, we have 90 seconds if you really, 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 really need it, but we also have, like, with 20% discount, 4 minutes startup time.
Yeah,
then that might be an option, right?
I think
as companies increasingly care about the emergency that we find ourselves in. So for the last year, I've found myself, I call it a sustainability sandwich. And so my first 5 minutes is about swimming pools, and everybody thinks that's really very, very interesting and super exciting. Then the next 2 hours is about price. And then at the end, somebody remembers the swimming pools. Now, just now, we're beginning to find people who care a little bit more about the sort of the bread and not just the price. To your point, it's like, okay, well, maybe you're prepared to make compromises based on the overall impact, not just the performance impact of one thing, but overall. I think it's beginning to happen.
Amazing. So kind of looking ahead at the future, What are the biggest challenges and opportunities you see for sustainable data centers over the next decade? Matt, I'm going to start with you.
Power. I've had conversations in the last 24 hours about building some stuff like distributed LLMs. You can get super excited about that, right? If we had this conversation, if we had a workshop around that here, we could just have the best 4 hours. I can guarantee it'd be amazing. But that doesn't necessarily mean it can be built or should be built, or it can't be built in a responsible way. And one of the primary challenges, certainly that we face in the UK, is power availability. We have some quite windy stuff in the north of our country, but it's incredibly difficult on our arcane infrastructure to get it to the south. There's a huge degradation in power transit, for example. And we're not the only people who need power. There's a housing problem in the UK. Every time we build a data center, we take away opportunities. And so, for me, it's an energy question. I would say that because I'm kind of in the real estate industry. But I also see that we shouldn't be consuming as much. It's almost ironic for me to say, because I want to build as many small data centers as I possibly can. But I also look to this community to go, let's use as little compute as we possibly can as well.
So Dinesh and Matt, I know you guys are in the UK, but Mario, you're here in Germany. So Germany specifically, is there anything?
Yeah, so the power grid is also a problem. In Germany, they signed off a ton of building permits that now a new power grid can be established. The problem is also in Germany, northern part of Germany, the power grid doesn't belong to Germany anymore. It's belonging to a Dutch company. And Germany tried to buy it back, but they couldn't agree on a price. So it's still a Dutch company and they don't want it. So you know how well they will treat the power grid in the future. And I also think that, and there I disagree with Frank, what Frank Thelen yesterday said. He said that we will have energy in abundance, and I strongly disagree with this. I think that energy will be one of the most valued and scarce resources, especially when we move towards sustainable energies. I mean, currently we have on the planet 7 countries that rely completely on 100% sustainable energy. That's nothing. And the European Union is based on 2022, it was 21% renewable energy, so it's like nothing. And you can't, I mean, we can put solar panels in the desert, and they're very effective. But the problem then we have, again, with the power grid, how do we get, luckily we don't have a desert in Germany yet, and I hope that this will never happen. But yeah, that's also a problem with how do we distribute energy across borders, and there we also get into the problem like different countries need to talk to each other.
I think it's if we can move workload out to where there is power becomes an option. So very similar to what you're doing, Matt, about moving heat generation to where it's needed. Can we move that usage out to where there's a lot of power? Yeah. But then probably there's not a huge number of people or uses for that heat.
Well, yeah, we have a responsibility to. So when we survey a site, the first question is power, and we look at stranded power, and that's one of two things. It's either all the stuff in Scotland that we can't get to England, or it's in the grid, but it's not being used in a community, but the connectivity is there. So power is the first question. The second is the space. So rack density versus the amount of cubic meters that we actually have. The denser the compute gets, the more we like it, and the hotter it works. But that is a particular use case. So we like HPC, and we obviously like a lot of the stuff around AI, but there's hype, we accept that, but it's part of the future. You will all work out what the fuck we're meant to do with it. Sorry, that's probably Norse language. But we'll work that out. The third thing is that we then look at the offtake. Like, where is this energy going to go? And there are instances where there's simply no one who can use the economic value of that. And then there's kind of there's lots of legislative constraints around sites and which council and who owns it and all these kind of things. But that third piece is like, where do you put, we're essentially a furnace, like where do you put it and can anyone use it? We have a responsibility to do that. despite our own desire to grow.
I mean, Microsoft did an experiment and they finished it this year, with the underwater data center, where they put the data center inside of the ocean, and they said it worked well, but they won't continue. So
that's good. I don't think we need to heat the oceans.
Yeah. I mean, the only question would be that if we basically take the coolant inside of the ocean and then have the heat distributed. So this would be like the combination. So you mentioned Scotland.
Yeah, there's one in London. There's a 15,000 home estate being built. They are taking the water from the Thames. They're using a thermal store the size of a football stadium. The data center, which hopefully we will be a part of, is absolutely, they call it an energy center, but it's massive. And then there's also some thinking, obviously, about what happens with any excess heat. What do you do with that? So you're not pumping it back into the Thames. So it's possible, but putting the data center actually into the ocean environment, less attractive for me.
Yeah, I mean, in Iceland, they heat greenhouses also with their data centers, and they grew really, really well-tasting tomatoes in Iceland.
So it's a great example. So if you take direct air capture, now I know that's a bit nascent. So this is literally a technology that takes the CO2 out of the air and turns it into a substrate. It needs heat to charge that machine. So if you put a data center, like a deep green data center, next to the DAC machine, your output is CO2. So what are you going to do with that? You take it into a greenhouse. So now you've got a closed loop, relatively circular economy, a microeconomy of CO2 being captured. That may be a good thing. We need to reduce it. Let's not say we're going to get to pre-industrial levels, but maybe we'll just attack the margin. Then you have a data center. We're going to need some of those. And then you have an off-taker, which is food, and we have a challenge around agriculture. We have to start thinking big and small to sort of to capitalize on the opportunity.
I agree. So we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to ask one more question. Dinesh, I'm going to start with you. How do you envision the tech industry balancing the growing demand for data with the need to limit environmental impact?
It's very much what Mario said earlier about really starting with the why. Do we need this? I know at the moment there's this huge boom on open source language models. Do we need all of them? Do we want to just agree on, hey, we'll take Llama or whatever it is and we'll completely open source it, and we'll then start building off the back of that, rather than having all of these companies competing to create their own slightly different version of the same thing. And these are the sort of decisions we need to be making as an industry and having conversations, and what are we pushing here?
Matt or Mario?
I totally agree. I mean, Kubernetes is a good example, right? We had Kubernetes came around. There were a couple of other competitors, and Kubernetes in the end came to be the winner, more or less. And especially what you mentioned, that the open source models. Currently, we have only one real open source model. Everything else is open core,
yeah.
And this is a problem, in my opinion. Because it limits a lot of things, and if we have one base that a lot of people can work on, and then we also have the good thing in open source projects is governance is pretty well regulated, because, for example, I'm in the Kubernetes project, so there can't be more than 2 steering members from the same company. So it's always this balancing out in between companies, so no one gets a complete say. And I think that we should also go with anything AI or ML related.
I think we're just mentioning about AI at the moment because there's a lot of hype at the moment, and there is a lot of energy being consumed by this at the moment. And that's not the start and the end of sustainability, but it's one thing that we as an industry are pushing really hard at the moment that we need to stop and think about.
I'm going to add one more, sorry. So to kind of leave our audience with something, if you could challenge them to kind of think in a different way or do something slightly different to help with this sustainability, what would you guys recommend?
If you run Kubernetes, go through all of your deployments and look if they have limits and minimum requirements, and then look at the scale of your cluster and look if you really need those sizes, and also double check if you, especially when you use cloud providers like Civo, they have auto-scaling features, and you can optimize your application on auto-scaling. Try to do this, because this is the easiest way to not only save resources and energy, but also, and this brings you to what Matt said, the half-hour core topic of any discussion, money, because you spend less money.
You do. Measure everything, because you can't manage what you don't measure. Is only half of a quote, and I don't remember the other bit. But look it up, because the other bit's actually quite important. But yesterday, Stu from Red Badger did this really great talk, because I could understand half of it. And he kind of spun up an instance of a query to some sort of databases talking about inventory in a retail environment. And because of the way that he'd done it, containerized and all of the stuff that you all understand, it was super efficient, and it stood the thing up, and then it stood it back down. And it was like, for me, this was like, this is brilliant, because I kind of understood it, a little of what was going on. And I asked him, okay, what's the carbon impact of that? Versus a conventional way of doing the same query. I want to be able to measure carbon impact at the workload level. I can only do that if we are all working towards that common aim. So yes, it is absolutely about economic value and savings, but I'd also like to be able to measure it in terms of carbon impact. The social good piece is just how many hours of swimming pools can I heat? And that's also quantifiable, but people will change behaviors when things are quantifiable. Too many things in sustainability are generic, homogeneous, best guesses. You are capable of actually making this quantifiable, and I'd suggest measure everything.
I would say, I mean, obviously here you do care about this, you want to hear about this, but start spreading the word and just asking the hard questions of where is the data center, what provider are we with, what are they doing for sustainability? Because if you're not asking these questions internally, likely no one is.
That's a good point. Click on the green button on the Civo environment and go green.
Yeah, and don't do greenwashing, because they will figure it out eventually.
Well, thank you all so much. If you guys have any questions for, I guess, all three of you, please come find them. They are wonderful people to talk to, and I'm sure would be happy to answer all of your questions. But can we get a big round of applause for Matt, Mario, and Dinesh, please?